All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to our space. We're so happy to have you here. My name is Cathy Duarte Gastelum, Ph.D., newly minted. I just got that in May 2020, so I'm happy that I get to introduce myself as a Ph.D. and a doctor. So I'm one of the organizers for this webinar. We know a lot of us are Zoomed out, so we appreciate you taking the time to be here. Since we were not able to have our annual conference at the University of Delaware back in May, we wanted to ensure that we connected with our fellow critical scholars in some way. This introductory session is to welcome you to the space and introduce you to the organizers of the summer webinar. As I mentioned above, all of us wanted to connect with our CRSEA community and introduce this community to anyone who has yet to hear of us. CRSEA is an important space for me because I felt so lost as a critical scholar in a PWI, and I even get anxious just talking about it because it was just a very traumatic experience. I often felt that my critical eye was not welcome at my institution, and when I was nominated to be a graduate student representative for CRSEA in 2018, I felt that I had finally found my space to be myself in academia. I am a proud graduate of the formerly banned Rasta Studies program in Tucson Unified School District, and that's when I was introduced to being a critical thinker in regard to race. I always felt this critical lens inside me, but I never knew what it was or how to express it. And I'm so thankful for the CRSEA space in the community because it empowers me to continue my studies and make my seat at the table, even when sometimes I need to create my own table and create my own seats for our community. And that's a little bit about me. Next, we have Heidi, who will now introduce herself and tell you a little bit more about how this webinar came about.
Thank you, Cathy. My name is Heidi. I'm a doctoral student at the University of San Francisco. I am a first-gen Latinx underrepresented mother scholar. It sounds complicated, but based on my experience, to me, it means that my identities fall in that specific category of underrepresented minorities. It also means that I have the privilege to be part of academia, that I am the connection and representation of underrepresented minorities to higher education. I am the hope, I am the mirror in which these communities need to reflect themselves in. When I first came to the US in 1994, I wasn't certain of what my realities would be living in a first world country. What I did know is that I wanted to blend in with white people and no longer have any ties to my roots because I wanted to feel superior. And for some reason in my mind, I grew up believing that if you were white, you were superior. My first memory of being introduced to one of the most famous and prestigious universities was when I first arrived to the US. My mom took me on a tour to UC Berkeley. The university was just perfect, so perfect that she told me only rich or smart people attend this university. Basically, in my mind, this meant that it was off limits for me. She came to this country to escape poverty, but she was in a fixed mindset. In her view, although she has a college degree in Guatemala, she was not good enough to learn English or to get a job that required a degree. She was socially forced to work as a nanny, caregiver, or maid, the type of jobs that people do not recognize as jobs, but rather as an obligation for someone like her, an immigrant, who gets paid lower than minimum wage without any benefits. When I was in elementary school, I realized that I was not very superior after all. I had to learn English, I had an accent, I looked different, and I was treated differently. It was not until I went to middle school and we moved to Pacifica, California, that I was seen as exotic for white people. They wanted to hang out with me and be like me. I felt like I blended in finally. However, when the 9/11 event happened, I woke up and turned on the TV. I watched the tragic event as I was getting ready. My mom drove me to school. It was a very weird day. It felt as if everyone was coming together or watching each other while realizing that we were different. Then I remember walking to class and a few kids started bullying me and blaming me for the 9/11 events because I look Middle Eastern. I was so confused. And that is when I realized that I look like every minority that is oppressed every single day, and trying to hide my identity, which is completely wrong. It was the first day that I was conscious of racial awareness. I was angry, but I realized that there's a bigger issue out there, and I was included in that group of victims. Not long ago, I learned that my parental great-grandfather migrated to my birth country from Jerusalem, which makes sense to why I look Middle Eastern and why I always identify to Islam and Arabic culture as well. But that's another story to tell another time. I have always aspired to maximize my capabilities and access suitable opportunities to achieve life goals. However, the existence of racial segregation in almost every aspect of social life has been a major source of frustration. The positionality that I am currently in can be used to my advantage in order to climb the ladder in higher education. I am aware of the social obstacles that must be navigated in order to get to my current position. Since I became part of the international and multicultural education family at the University of San Francisco, I feel like I'm able to be myself because my voice is being heard. Being a Latinx underrepresented first generation mother of color at this moment and trying to balance graduate school with work on top of what our country is facing, it's a lot to take on with everything that is happening in our country. I was first introduced to CRSEA during my first semester at the University of San Francisco by Dr. Kant, who teaches critical race theory. Not only was I inspired by her class, but also encouraged me to attend last year's CRSEA conference at USC. This is where I met so many people like me, powerful people who came together and put their voices and ideas together. It felt as if I finally had the fuel and backup to fight against oppression. I also met someone who I admire much, Dr. Cheryl Matias. She rolled up to one of the sessions with her two toddlers. She gave her presentation and she owned the place. I admire the way not only she represents women of color, but also mothers of color. She stands her ground. I was super excited to bring my family this year to Philadelphia and show my 8-year-old and my 3-year-old daughters about the type of work that I'm involved in and expose them at an early age about public scholarship and to be that example for them. I was part of the planning committee and I asked Dr. Can to come out and conduct a workshop as a token of appreciation for introducing me to the most amazing conference that changed me completely. Unfortunately, due to the current events, this could not happen. I follow Cathy and CRSEA on Instagram, and I noticed that due to current events, people were either going crazy or becoming very creative in terms of activist work. This is when I decided to reach out to Cathy and I asked her to propose a webinar. These are times where our voices need to be louder than ever. So thank you, Cathy, for hearing my voice, letting me speak and making this happen. I could not be more excited and honored to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. And thank you to all of the planning committee and helping us get this going because it's much needed. So next we have Lorena.
Good morning to you all that are in Pacific time and good afternoon, Eastern and Central time attendees. My name is Lorena Camargo Gonzalez. I'm a Chicana first generation Ph.D. student in education at UCLA. And it's wonderful to be in community with you all via this virtual space. Like Cathy, I love CRSEA, and it's an organization that has changed my life. It's been wonderful to be introduced to the space 5 years ago in Nashville, Tennessee, when I met at least one other colleague here on our planning committee for the first time. And it was the first conference, national conference, that I attended as a student, as an attendee, and I was scared, I was nervous, but I was re-energized like no other space had re-energized me before. I was introduced by my then advisor, Dr. Lindsay Perez-Huber, and little did I know that, 5 years from that date, I would be starting my 4th year PhD program and doing some of the work that some of the colleagues introduced me to in that space. And that's something that I would have never imagined 5 years ago. Currently, I am studying race and racism and the history of Latinx children's literature. And that's some of my work, but I look forward to listen to the speakers and meeting with you all via web discussions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lorena. We're glad to have you and thank you for being part of this planning committee. All right, next we have Eli.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Eli Diaz. It's a pleasure to be sharing space with you all in this timely and empowering summer webinar series. I am a Ciudad Juarez native who grew up in Anaheim, California. I have been an activist. I am a dreamer since DACA. And this past May, I completed my master's in education from Cal State Long Beach. As a first generation, non-traditional, low income, underrepresented, undocumented Latinx student, I never imagined that one day I would have a master's degree or that I would be admitted to a Ph.D. program. I will be starting on my doctoral program in education at UC Santa Cruz this fall. I first heard about CRSEA several years ago, but my reality as a person without status did not permit me to take time on other things, or distractions outside of finding work, completing grad projects, or staying involved with campus and community activism. I was invited to volunteer and attend last year's CRSEA conference at USC, and I am glad that I agreed to participate. When I got there, at first it was all very intimidating, the people, their positions and accolades. But after I engaged with some folks, I felt more at ease and began to feel like I belonged. I got to meet Dr. Dolores Delgado Bernal, Dr. Danny Solorzano, and Dr. Sean Harper. During the final CRSEA day at the business meeting, I heard that this year's conference would be held in Delaware. I immediately thought that it would be too risky for me to travel by plane as an undocumented person, and so I asked how students without status could make it to the conference. This past spring, Dr. Erika Davila and I began to organize a small caravan of undocumented and documented students to travel to Delaware, drive all the way there. But due to COVID, this plan was postponed. Hopefully, we can make it happen next year. And so here I am. I am happy to help organize this summer webinar series, and I hope that we all learn a lot and, have a good time. Thank you.
Thank you, Eli. And just as a side note, I remember when you brought that up, and I'm like, that's a great idea. We need to be friends and make this happen. So I remember that. So thank you. And thank you for your involvement with the planning and, in CRSEA and doing all that side work. Thank you so much. Next, we have Øscar.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Cathy. Hi, my name is Øscar Medina. I'm a doc student at the University of Missouri in Columbia. So I'm a grad rep along with Cathy. And I first heard about CRSEA in 2014 when Richard Delgado and Jean Stefanczyk actually told me about it because there was a conference on legal scholars and CRT at the University of Pittsburgh where I used to attend. And even though I didn't go that year, I went the following year. And when I went, that was the first time that I presented. And it was just a really welcoming space, and it was really safe, really good feedback that people got, that people gave me. And, I just felt the community, interacting with folks. And I mean, we got to meet like really dope scholars. Lorena had briefly mentioned that, she connected with one of the folks on the committee, and that was me. So like we connected then in 2015. And it was, it's a lot smaller than AERA, so then it's really easy to get to know people, and have conversations with, a lot of the scholars that we read, we read their work. So then the following year, I got involved helping the grad reps, putting the pre-conference together, and that was Rihanna and Roberto Montoya. So that's a little bit about me, but I want to move next to like the layout of like the webinar. And so today we're going to have another session at 11 to 12:30, 30 minutes after the session's over, and that's with Dr. Angel Jones and Luz Burgo Lopez. And their session is titled No Soy Morenita, Addressing Anti-Blackness in the Latinx Community. And then tomorrow we're gonna have two sessions, and that's Jamie Wood Shoemaker and Cheryl Clark. And their session is gonna start at 10, and it's titled Allies, Accomplices, Turncoats, Enacting Solidarity. And then a 30-minute break, and then we'll start again at 12:30, and that's Professora Yolanda Varela Gonzalez, and that's Bridging the Digital Divide of Distance Learning for Students of Color. And we'll end it there, and then we'll start again the following week with 4 sessions a day, both on Friday and Saturday. So that's Friday the 14th, and then Saturday the 15th. And some of those session titles, so they're between an hour and an hour and a half, but some of those session titles are Intersectional Approaches to Dismantling Racism in Academia as Scholar Mothers of Color, DACA American a testimonial from a former DACA beneficiary now living in Canada. Anti-racist restriction and the arts, a panel discussion on racism and healing in Bogota, Colombia. From Home Depot to a Ph.D. experiences of an undocumented community college student. Graduate student dissertating and parenting during COVID-19. Foundations of Black Critical Theory, Black Crit, humanize this space centering BIPOC narratives in curriculum, and then decolonizing methodologies centering our epistemologies in academia and beyond. So I didn't give the names because I'm gonna make some flyers and post them up on our social media. So that way you can be on the lookout and be excited when they come out. And then after that last session, we're gonna have the business meeting, which, you know, if you want to get involved in, you know, like planning any of the pre-conferences or there's a lot of different committees that, you know, that help put the conference together. So if you want to get involved, that would definitely be the place to come and join and hear how you can do that. So next I want to talk about our social media. So, you know, that's a lot of the places where we have our information out. So on Facebook, if you just look up CRSEA, you should be able to find it. There's two groups. There's one that's like has 400 members, and there's another one that has, I think, like 5,000 members. So you want to go with the one with 5,000 members. And then you can look up in the Instagram, CRSEA Leadership, to go on there and see a lot of the updates that we have. And then also on YouTube, we started this a couple months back where we're uploading videos, where interviews such as The Roots of CRT by Dr. Theodora Berry and Critical Praxis with David Stovall, Dr. David Stovall. And you can just look up CRSEA Leadership on the search bar and you should be able to find them right there. So as a grassroots organization, you know, CRSEA is really able to do this with the membership that we get through like our conferences. And because this year, you know, because of COVID and we weren't able to have a conference, we're asking, you know, if you can, like, if you can donate in anything at all. And the donation link is on the CRSEA.org website. So if you can and want to, you know, we'd really appreciate that. You know, because there's a lot of costs with like putting up the website and things like that. And lastly, our goal is to have like these sessions recorded and uploaded on the YouTube, what do you call it, CRSEA Leadership page, and also like on our website. So if you're not able to attend some of the sessions, you know, that I mentioned because you're busy, you know, you're going to be able to see them later on when we upload them. So with that, I want to ask if there's any questions or comments from the audience. So if someone's asking a question, you're on mute too.
Yeah, just go ahead and jump on in. I don't see any questions posted in the chat or on the Facebook live stream. So yeah, if you have a question or comment, just go ahead and let us know. And Øscar, I want to thank you for your introduction too. And just to side out everybody who is affiliated with CRSEA, you probably already know this, but Øscar is the one who's responsible for all of like the graphic stuff. So any graphics that you see, that's thanks to Øscar. And the emails, Øscar is in charge of the tech committee. So that's just an example of how you can get involved. If you're into like social media, marketing, definitely reach out to Øscar or one of us, and we can definitely get you connected and how to be more involved in CRSEA.
If nobody has any questions, I think it would be awesome. I see some of the folks on here, you know, have attended CRSEA before. So if you want to share like how you got involved with CRSEA or like what CRSEA means to you, you know, that would be awesome if you can share that, you know, and like everyone can hear.
We have a shy group this morning. But I just wanted to add that Dr. Judith Flores Carmona on Facebook, she says, great work. So thank you all to everyone again, and thank you for participating too, because we wouldn't be having these webinars if we didn't have an audience or people who were interested. So thank you all for being here this morning and taking time out of your very busy lives. And like I said before, a lot of us are zoomed out, but thank you so much for listening in or watching. We really appreciate that.
Good morning. How's everybody doing today?
Good. Good morning.
Hi.
Well, good morning, Sergio.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Sergio. I'm going to start us off because it was like crickets right now. So buenos dias. I'm coming to y'all from, I'm in LA right now. I'm from the Bay Area, born and raised. And how I got into CRSEA, well, I had heard about it previously. I'm currently a Ph.D. student at Claremont Graduate University, so the Pomona colleges, and I'm going into my 4th year. I'm just like, it's another day. We're in quarantine, sepa que va a pasar, but here we are. So, yeah, and so I really got into CRSEA through a few people, but like I think one of the main people that really got me connected or interested in it is Dr. Nicole Garcia, and I had the privilege of getting to know her, and like she's definitely one of my femtors now. I got to know her a few years back while she was doing her some postdoc work at UPenn, and I was interning at the same time, so we crossed paths and we just connected. But the first time I attended CRSEA was last year at USC, honestly. And it was really awesome to get to like meet people and just see how people are doing work in very creative ways and just, connecting to gente. I think for me, a lot of the work that I want to do is around joteria pedagogy and like joteria epistemology, which is, first of all, it's not something that's accepted in traditional white academia. And I'm always like, a la chingada, I'm not here to like try to validate why I'm trying to do, work that's transformative in its approach and its pedagogy and how it lives and exists and breathes. So yeah, so I think being in CRSEA was an awesome space, and I was super excited to be accepted to present, and then COVID happened, but we got to make it work where we're at, and it's not the end, and I'm really excited to just connect and be able to like work with folks and and make more connections. So thank you.
Thank you, Sergio. We're so glad to have you here. And just a side note to that too, Dr. Garcia, she's our treasurer for the CRSEA e-board. All right, anyone else want to share? From Facebook, we have a comment from Dr. Judith Flores Carmona, aloha a la chingada. So we're glad to have folks interacting from Facebook Live too. So if you'll be joining us from our other sessions, if you don't have time to look up the email or the link, just go onto our CRSEA Facebook page and click on the live stream, and they will also be saved there too. And if you are not a member yet of that group, make sure to answer the membership questions just so we know who you are. Because unfortunately, there are a lot of trolls out there, so we just want to make sure that we're only letting folks in who really want to be part of CRSEA. All right, so I don't see anybody taking themselves off of mute or anything. So any last minute thoughts, comments, concerns, questions? This goes out to everybody and including the planning committee. Well, if not, then I guess it's safe to say that we can go ahead and conclude this session. Thank you all so much for being here. If you will be joining us for our next session with Dr. Angel Jones and Luz, there's a specific link for that. Each session will have a different link. So just giving you a heads up, if you clicked on the link for this session, that's the only one that it'll work for. So make sure to check your email. If you registered at the last minute, check your email again, and we are gonna be sending out another batch of links, so keep that in mind. And we look forward to seeing you in our sessions, and hopefully we'll see you again next week for part 2. Keep an eye out for the promotional materials for that and for the link to register.
Also, I wanted to add to be on the lookout. I'll post up the presenters for the following week up on the on CRSEA.org and also on our social media. So be on the lookout.
Alrighty, y'all. Thank you all so much for being here. And just one last thank you from Rachel Cunningham from our Facebook Live feed. Thank you all so much for being here. It really means a lot to us.